The Alder River was rising fast that October night, churning dark and cold beneath the old bridge, when Ethan Cole watched a woman in an expensive suit step over the railing. He had exactly 3 seconds to decide: chase after his 6-year-old daughter who'd wandered toward the parking lot, or dive into water that could kill them both. He chose the river. What he pulled from those black currents wasn't just a drowning CEO with secrets carved into her skin. It was the beginning of everything that would shatter his carefully controlled grief and force him to answer the one question he'd been avoiding since his wife died. Was he still brave enough to let someone in? If you want to see how a single father and a woman who'd learned to hide her scars built something real from the wreckage of their pasts, stay with me until the end. And please, hit that like button and comment what city you're watching from. I love seeing how far these stories travel. The rain started just as Ethan pulled into the riverside parking lot, the kind of cold October drizzle that turned everything gray and made the world feel smaller. He cut the engine of his decade-old Honda and glanced in the rearview mirror at Mia, who was staring out the window with that distant look she'd been wearing more and more lately. "Ready, sweetheart?" he asked, keeping his voice gentle. She nodded without looking at him. 6 years old and already carrying weight no child should have to bear. Ethan's chest tightened the way it always did when he saw that expression, the one that reminded him so much of Sarah in her final months, when the illness had stolen her energy but not her determination to stay present for their daughter. He stepped out into the drizzle and opened Mia's door, helping her down from the booster seat. She was wearing her purple raincoat, the one Sarah had bought her last spring. Ethan had offered to get her a new one when she'd outgrown it, but Mia had cried for an hour at the suggestion, so he'd learned to pick his battles. "Dr. Chen says walking by the river helps clear our minds," Ethan said, as they started down the paved path that ran alongside the Alder River. "What do you think? Is your mind feeling clearer?" Mia shrugged, her small hand tucked into his larger one. They'd been doing therapy for 8 months now, ever since Sarah's sudden death from an undiagnosed heart condition had ripped their world apart. Dr. Chen was patient and kind, and she'd suggested these evening walks as a way to process grief through movement and nature. The river was higher than usual, swollen from recent storms. It moved fast and dark beneath the old iron bridge that connected the walking path to the other side of town. Ethan could hear it rushing, a sound that was both soothing and vaguely threatening. "Daddy, can I look at the ducks?" Mia asked, pointing toward a cluster of mallards huddled near the bank. "Stay where I can see you," Ethan said, releasing her hand. He watched as she walked carefully toward the edge of the path, her purple coat bright against the gray evening. That's when he saw the woman. She was standing on the pedestrian bridge, about 50 yards away. Even from this distance, Ethan could tell something was wrong with the picture. She wore a tailored charcoal suit, the kind that probably cost more than his monthly rent, and her dark hair was pulled back in a severe bun. But she was gripping the railing with both hands, leaning forward in a way that made Ethan's pulse quicken. He glanced at Mia, still focused on the ducks, then back at the woman. She was climbing over the railing now, moving with a strange deliberateness that made his stomach drop. "Mia, stay right there," Ethan called, already moving. His daughter looked up, startled by the urgency in his voice, but he was already running toward the bridge. The woman was on the wrong side of the railing now, her expensive heels balanced on the narrow ledge. Ethan could see her face clearly as he got closer, pale, drawn, with dark circles under her eyes that spoke of sleepless nights and quiet desperation. "Hey!" he shouted. "Wait!" She turned her head toward him, and for a moment their eyes met. Hers were a startling shade of green, beautiful and completely empty. Then she let go. Ethan didn't think. He'd spent the last 8 months thinking too much, analyzing every decision, weighing every risk. This time his body moved on pure instinct. He vaulted the railing on his side of the bridge and hit the water 3 seconds after she did. The cold was a physical shock, driving the air from his lungs. The Alder River in October was barely above freezing, fed by mountain runoff that never truly warmed. The current grabbed him immediately, powerful and indifferent, dragging him downstream. He surfaced, gasping, and saw her about 10 feet away. She wasn't fighting the water, just letting it take her, her arms loose at her sides. Ethan struck out toward her with strong, desperate strokes. He'd grown up swimming in these waters, back when they'd been calmer and less polluted. Muscle memory took over. His hand closed around her wrist just as they reached a section where the river narrowed and the current intensified. She was dead weight in his grip, not helping, maybe not even conscious. Ethan wrapped his arm around her torso and kicked hard for the bank, fighting the water with everything he had. The current slammed them into a fallen tree that jutted into the river. Pain exploded in Ethan's ribs, but he used the collision to anchor them, grabbing a branch with his free hand. For a long moment he just held on, both of them, the woman's head above water, only because he was holding her up. "Come on," he grunted through chattering teeth. "Help me out here." She didn't respond. Ethan adjusted his grip and began pulling them along the tree toward the bank, hand over hand. His muscles screamed, his lungs burned, but Sarah's voice was in his head, the way she'd sounded when she was still strong. "Don't you dare give up, Ethan Cole. Not on anything worth saving." His feet found purchase on the muddy bottom. He dragged them both onto the bank, collapsing onto the wet grass with the woman's weight half on top of him. For a moment he just lay there, chest heaving, rain mixing with river water on his face. Then he heard Mia screaming, "Daddy! Daddy!" Ethan sat up too fast, his vision swimming. Mia was running down the path toward them, her purple coat flapping, her face streaked with tears. Behind her, a woman with a phone was calling something Ethan couldn't make out over the rushing water. "I'm okay," Ethan called to his daughter, though he wasn't sure that was true. He looked down at the woman he'd pulled from the river. She was breathing, at least, short, shallow gasps that suggested she was coming back to consciousness. Mia crashed into him, sobbing, and Ethan wrapped one arm around her while keeping his other hand on the woman's shoulder to make sure she didn't slide back into the water. "You jumped in," Mia was saying over and over. "You jumped in like Mommy did. I thought you were gone too. I thought, shh. Baby, I'm right here. I'm not going anywhere." Ethan held her tight, feeling her small body shaking against his. He hadn't thought about Mia when he jumped, hadn't thought about what it would do to her to see her only remaining parent disappear into the same kind of water that had been present in so many of Sarah's hospital nightmares toward the end. She'd dreamed of drowning in those final weeks, had woken up gasping. The woman coughed, a wet, rattling sound, and turned her head to the side. Water streamed from her mouth, her eyes open, those strange green eyes, and focused slowly on Ethan's face. "Why?" she whispered. Her voice was hoarse, barely audible over the river. "Why did you do that?" "Because you were drowning," Ethan said simply. "I was choosing." Each word seemed to cost her effort. "You took that away." "Daddy, is she okay?" Mia asked, her voice small and frightened. The woman's gaze shifted to Mia, and something flickered in her expression, pain or maybe recognition. She closed her eyes. "Ambulance is coming!" The woman with the phone called from the path. "I saw everything. They're sending help." Ethan nodded his thanks but didn't move. He was soaked through, starting to shiver violently, and Mia was pressed against him like she was trying to merge their bodies back into one. The woman he'd saved was breathing more steadily now, but she'd turned her face away from both of them. "I'm Ethan," he said to her, not sure why it mattered but feeling like it did. "Ethan Cole. This is my daughter Mia." The woman didn't respond, but after a long moment she said, Lena Ward." The name triggered something in Ethan's memory, something he'd seen in the business section of the newspaper maybe, or heard on the radio. But his thoughts were too scattered, his body too cold to pin it down. Sirens echoed in the distance, growing closer. Ethan held Mia and kept his hand on Lena's shoulder, the three of them wet and shivering on the riverbank as the October rain fell harder. The emergency room was controlled chaos, all bright lights and urgent voices and the smell of antiseptic that Ethan had grown to hate over the months of Sarah's illness. He sat in a plastic chair in the waiting area, Mia curled up beside him, wrapped in a hospital blanket, while a nurse checked his vitals for the third time. "Your core temperature's coming back up," the nurse said, a kind woman in her 50s with graying hair. "But I want the doctor to check your ribs. You've got some serious bruising." "I'm fine," Ethan said automatically. Mia stirred against his side, not quite asleep, but drifting in that exhausted state that followed emotional overwhelm. He didn't want to move and disturb her. Humor me, the nurse said. You dove into a freezing river and got slammed into a tree. Fine is relative. Ethan nodded, too tired to argue. What about the woman I pulled out? Lena Ward? The nurse's expression shifted, becoming more guarded. She's being evaluated. I can't really share details about other patients. Is she okay? She's alive, the nurse said carefully. Thanks to you. After the nurse left, Ethan sat in the fluorescent silence and tried to process what had happened. His clothes were in a plastic bag at his feet, still dripping river water. The hospital had given him scrubs to wear, the same kind Sarah had worn during her stays. Everything here reminded him of loss. Mr. Cole? Ethan looked up to find a doctor standing in front of him, a tall man with silver hair and tired eyes. Behind him stood a woman in a police uniform, her expression professionally neutral. I'm Dr. Harrison, the man said. I've been treating Miss Ward. She's asking to see you. Ethan blinked. She is? She's insisting on it, actually. Says she won't talk to anyone else until she does. Dr. Harrison glanced at the police officer. Officer Reynolds here has some questions about what happened, but Ms. Ward is refusing to make a statement without you present. Ethan looked down at Mia, who'd finally fallen into real sleep. My daughter... We have a staff member who can sit with her, the officer said gently. This won't take long. 20 minutes later, Ethan followed Dr. Harrison down a quiet hallway to a private room. The doctor paused before opening the door. She has some old injuries, he said quietly. Burn scars, extensive ones. She's very sensitive about them. I'm mentioning this because she wasn't wearing her usual... He gestured vaguely. Her covering. The river took care of that. Ethan nodded, not entirely sure what the doctor meant, but understanding it was important. The room was dimmed, just a single light over the bed. Lena Ward sat propped against pillows, wearing a hospital gown, her dark hair loose and drying in waves around her shoulders. But what caught Ethan's attention were the scars. They covered the left side of her neck and disappeared beneath the gown, textured and discolored, the unmistakable signature of severe burns. She saw him looking and her jaw tightened, but she didn't look away. Sit down, she said. It wasn't a request. Ethan sat in the chair beside the bed. Officer Reynolds took up a position near the door, notebook ready. Dr. Harrison excused himself. You wanted to see me, Ethan said. Lena studied him with those intense green eyes. You have a daughter. Yes. And you jumped into a river with her watching. What if you drowned? What happens to her then? The question hit harder than Ethan expected. I didn't think about that. Exactly. Lena's voice was sharp. You didn't think. You just reacted. Do you have any idea how irresponsible that was? You were dying, Ethan said evenly. I was choosing, Lena repeated, the same word she'd used on the riverbank. There's a difference. Officer Reynolds cleared her throat. Ms. Ward, I need to ask some questions about what happened tonight, starting with whether this was a suicide attempt. No comment. Lena didn't take her eyes off Ethan. Ma'am, I can't help you if... I said no comment. Now Lena did look at the officer, her expression hardening into something that reminded Ethan of ice. Unless you're planning to arrest me for something, we're done here. Reynolds looked at Ethan helplessly. Mr. Cole, can you tell me what you witnessed? Ethan described the scene carefully. The woman on the bridge, her fall, the rescue. He kept it factual, avoided speculation about intent. When he finished, Reynolds sighed. Ms. Ward, the hospital is going to recommend a psychiatric evaluation. That's standard procedure for... I'm aware of the procedures, Lena interrupted. I'll cooperate with whatever's required, but I'm not making any statement about my mental state or my intentions. Is that clear? Reynolds nodded reluctantly. We'll be in touch. After the officer left, silence filled the room. Ethan could hear medical equipment beeping in distant rooms, the low murmur of voices in the hallway. Lena was watching him again, that intense scrutiny that made him feel like he was being dissected. Your wife is dead, she said finally. It wasn't a question. Ethan's breath caught. How did you... Your daughter said something when we were on the bank. Lena's expression softened slightly, though her voice remained flat. She said you jumped in like Mommy did. Then she said she thought you were gone too. Sarah died 8 months ago, Ethan heard himself say. Heart condition. We didn't know she had it. She collapsed at work one day and never woke up. But your daughter thinks she drowned. No, she just... Sarah had nightmares near the end, about drowning. Mia remembers her talking about them. Ethan rubbed his face. I shouldn't be telling you this. Why not? I'm a stranger. Sometimes that's easier. Lena shifted against the pillows, wincing slightly. The scars bother you? No, Ethan said honestly. I was just surprised. The doctor warned me, but you didn't expect them to be this bad. Lena's tone was matter-of-fact, clinical. I was 7 when it happened. House fire. My mother didn't make it out. I spent 6 months in a burn unit. I'm sorry. Don't be. It was 23 years ago. Lena looked away toward the darkened window. Rain streaked the glass. I've spent most of my life learning how to hide them. Tonight, the river took away that choice. Why were you on the bridge? Ethan asked quietly. For a long time, Lena didn't answer. When she finally spoke, her voice had lost some of its hard edge. Do you know who I am? You said your name is Lena Ward. Ward Technologies. I'm the CEO. You might have seen the news coverage. We just closed a $3 billion merger. She laughed, a bitter sound. I was supposed to be at a celebration dinner tonight. Instead, I drove to that bridge. Why? Because I'm tired, Lena said simply. Tired of performing. Tired of being perfect. Tired of managing everyone's perception of who I'm supposed to be. She gestured at her scars. I've built an entire life around control. What I wear, how I present myself, every word I say in public. And tonight I just couldn't do it anymore. Ethan thought about Sarah, about the way she'd tried so hard to stay strong for Mia, even when the illness was eating her alive from the inside, about the weight of pretending everything was fine when nothing was fine. I get that, he said. Do you? Lena's eyes challenged him. You dove into a river to save someone you didn't know. That's not the behavior of someone who understands being tired of fighting. My wife spent her last 3 months fighting to smile for our daughter, to make every moment count, even when she could barely stay awake. Ethan's voice cracked slightly. When she died, I promised myself I wouldn't waste chances. If I see someone who needs help, I help. That's all I know how to do anymore. Lena was quiet for a long moment. Your daughter needs you more than I needed saving. Maybe, but you're both here, and that counts for something. Does it? Lena's expression was unreadable. Or did you just delay the inevitable? Before Ethan could answer, the door opened and Dr. Harrison stepped in. Miss Ward, the psychiatric team is ready for your evaluation. It's required before we can discharge you. Lena nodded. Fine. She looked at Ethan. Thank you for pulling me out, even if I didn't want you to. Ethan stood, suddenly exhausted beyond measure. I'm not sorry I did. I know. Something in Lena's expression shifted, not quite a smile, but close. That's the problem. Usek. It was past midnight when Ethan finally got Mia home. She'd woken up confused and clingy, and he'd had to carry her to the car. Now she was tucked into her bed, her purple raincoat hung carefully on its hook, and Ethan sat in the kitchen nursing a cup of coffee he didn't really want. His phone buzzed. An unknown number. This is Lena Ward. The hospital gave me your contact information as next of kin for emergency purposes. I wanted to say thank you properly, and to ask a question. Ethan stared at the screen, then typed. What question? The response came quickly. When you pulled me out of the river and saw what I looked like underneath everything, would you have still jumped in if you'd known? Ethan thought about it, about the scars, about the emptiness in her eyes, about the way she'd asked, why did you do that? Like rescue was incomprehensible. Yes, he typed, without hesitation. A long pause. Then, why? Because everyone deserves a second chance, even when they don't think they do. Another pause, longer this time. When the message finally came through, it was just 2 words. Prove it. Ethan set the phone down and looked at the photo on his refrigerator. Sarah and Mia at the beach last summer, both of them laughing, both of them alive and whole. Sarah had made him promise, in those final lucid days, that he wouldn't close himself off. that he'd stay open to life, to possibility, to the unexpected. He picked up the phone again. How? Coffee. Tomorrow. Riverside Cafe, 2 p.m. If you don't show, I'll know you're just another person who only wants to save the version of me they can stomach looking at. Ethan thought about all the reasons this was a bad idea. He was still processing grief. Mia needed stability, not her father getting involved with someone who'd literally just tried to end her own life. He had no business trying to help anyone when he could barely help himself. "I'll be there," he typed. "Don't bring pity," Lena responded. "I have enough of that." "I don't pity you," Ethan wrote back. "I barely know you." "Good. Keep it that way." Ethan set the phone aside and finished his coffee in the quiet kitchen. Through the window, he could see the rain still falling, washing the city clean. Somewhere out there, the Alder River was still rushing toward the sea, dark and cold and indifferent. But tonight, at least, it hadn't won. The Riverside Cafe was exactly the kind of place Ethan had expected Lena to choose. Upscale without being pretentious, with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the river and the kind of modern minimalist decor that suggested good taste and money. He arrived 10 minutes early, wearing his best jeans and a button-down shirt that Sarah had bought him for their last anniversary. Mia was with Mrs. Chen, his neighbor, who'd agreed to watch her for a few hours. He told Mia he had an errand to run, which was technically true, even if the errand involved meeting a woman he'd pulled from a river less than 24 hours ago. Lena arrived exactly at 2, and Ethan almost didn't recognize her. Gone was the severe bun and business suit. She wore dark jeans, a soft gray sweater, and a silk scarf wrapped artfully around her neck, covering the scars he now knew were there. Her hair was down, falling in loose waves past her shoulders, and she wore minimal makeup. She looked younger, softer, but her eyes were still guarded. "You came," she said, sliding into the booth across from him. "I said I would." "People say a lot of things." Lena ordered an espresso when the waitress appeared, then turned her full attention to Ethan. "I'm going to be direct because I don't know how else to be. I want to understand why you jumped in. I already told you." "No, you told me what you did. I'm asking why a single father with a traumatized 6-year-old would risk his life for a stranger." Lena leaned forward slightly. "Because that's not normal, Ethan. That's not how people behave." "Maybe I'm not normal. Or maybe you're running from something." Her gaze was sharp, analytical. Grief does strange things to people, makes them reckless, makes them confuse saving others with saving themselves. Ethan felt anger flicker in his chest. "Is that what you think? That I jumped in to make myself feel better? Didn't you? I jumped in because you were drowning and I could help. That's all there is to it." "There's never just that." Lena accepted her espresso from the waitress with a nod. "Everyone has motives, layers. You're telling me you had no thought except pure altruism?" "I'm telling you I didn't think at all. I just moved." Ethan paused. "And yeah, maybe part of that is because I couldn't save Sarah. Maybe there's some grief logic that says if I can save someone else, it balances the scales. But that doesn't make it wrong." Lena was quiet, her fingers wrapped around the small cup. "I looked you up last night. Ethan Cole, 34. Worked in construction management until your wife got sick. Now you're doing handyman work and side jobs to stay flexible for your daughter, living in a rented duplex in Riverside Heights. No criminal record, no red flags, just a guy trying to survive losing his wife." "Deceit? You investigated me?" Ethan couldn't decide if he was impressed or disturbed. "I needed to know who pulled me out of that river, and why." Lena sipped her espresso. "You want to know what I found? Someone who gave up his career, his stability, everything, to take care of his dying wife and traumatized child. Someone who understands sacrifice. I didn't sacrifice anything. I chose what mattered. That's the same thing." "No, it's not." Ethan leaned back, studying her. "Sacrifice implies loss. I didn't lose anything by being there for Sarah. I gained time with her. Every minute counted." Something shifted in Lena's expression, a crack in the armor. "I looked you up. It's only fair you know who I am, too." "Ward Technologies," Ethan said. $3 billion merger. CEO at 30. That's impressive." It's exhausting. Lena set down her cup. I took over the company when I was 26 after my father died. He'd built it from nothing, and I was determined to prove I deserved to run it, despite being young, despite being a woman, despite... She gestured vaguely at her neck. The scars. The scars, Lena confirmed. I spent years building a reputation as someone untouchable, someone who couldn't be intimidated or manipulated, the ice queen of tech. And it worked. We've tripled in value under my leadership. We've won contracts others said were impossible. But somewhere along the way, I forgot how to be anything else. What happened on the bridge, Mon? Ethan asked gently. Lena looked out the window at the river, flowing calm and gray in the afternoon light. I went to that celebration dinner, 100 people, all congratulating me on the merger, and I sat there thinking about how every single person in that room saw me as a function, not a person. CEO Lena Ward, the woman who wears designer scarves and never shows weakness. Not Lena who's scared of fire and wakes up from nightmares about her mother screaming and can't remember the last time someone touched her with actual affection. Her voice had gone quiet, almost fragile. Ethan waited. I left early, drove to the bridge, and I thought about how much easier it would be to just stop performing, to let the river take all of it, the company, the reputation, the scars, everything. Lena turned back to him. Then you showed up. I'm glad I did. Are you? Because I've been thinking about what you said, that everyone deserves a second chance. Lena's expression hardened again. What if I don't want it? What if I'm tired of chances? Then take a third chance, or a fourth. Keep taking them until you find one that fits. Ethan surprised himself with the conviction in his voice. Sarah used to say that grief isn't something you get over. It's something you learn to carry. Maybe the same is true for whatever you're running from. I'm not running. I'm just tired of fighting. Then stop fighting. Learn to exist instead. Lena laughed, but it wasn't bitter this time. You make it sound simple. It's not, but it's possible. Ethan hesitated. Can I ask you something? Why did you want to meet me? Really? Lena considered the question. Because when you pulled me out of that river, you saw me at my worst. Literally. No makeup, no scarf, no corporate armor. Just a woman with scars who'd given up. And you didn't flinch. You didn't look away. You just held on. She paused. I wanted to see if that was real or if I'd imagined it. It was real. Even now? Now that you know who I am and how broken I might be? You're not broken, Ethan said firmly. You're just carrying weight. There's a difference. Lena studied him for a long moment, then reached up and slowly unwound the scarf from her neck. The burn scars were fully visible now, raised and textured, covering the left side of her neck and disappearing beneath her sweater. In the bright cafe light, they looked raw and permanent. People at nearby tables glanced over. Ethan saw the moment of shock, the quick aversion of eyes, but he kept his gaze steady on Lena's face, not on the scars. This is who I am, she said quietly. This is what I hide every day. Still want to sit here? Yes, Ethan said without hesitation. Why? Because scars just mean you survived something. They don't define you. He thought about Sarah's surgical scars from the ports and IVs. My wife had scars too. Different kind, but they told the same story, that she fought, that she was stronger than what tried to break her. Lena's eyes were bright, almost wet. You really believe that? I do. She rewound the scarf slowly, her hands shaking slightly. I don't know what I'm doing here, Ethan. I don't know what I want or what comes next. I'm not good at being vulnerable. I'm not good at letting people in. Neither am I. Not since Sarah died. Ethan offered a small smile. Maybe we can be bad at it together. That's the worst pitch I've ever heard. But Lena was almost smiling too. I'm out of practice. They sat in silence for a moment, the cafe noise swirling around them, the hiss of the espresso machine, the murmur of conversations, the clink of cups on saucers. Outside, the river flowed on, indifferent and eternal. I have to go back to work Monday, Lena said finally. Face the board, manage the questions about why I missed the celebration. Pretend everything's fine. Is everything fine? No, but it will be. She met his eyes. Because for the first time in years, I'm not going to pretend it is. I'm going to get actual help. Therapy, probably medication, whatever it takes to not end up on that bridge again. That's brave. It's practical. I can't run a billion-dollar company if I'm dead. Lena paused. Will you? Can I see you again? Not as some kind of rescue project, just as, I don't know what, someone who sees me? Ethan thought about Mia, about the therapy sessions, about the weight of single parenthood and grief that still pressed on him every morning. He thought about all the reasons getting involved with someone like Lena Ward was complicated and potentially destructive. Then he thought about the way she'd looked when she took off the scarf, vulnerable and terrified and real. Yes, he said, but I have conditions. Lena raised an eyebrow. You're negotiating with me? I have a 6-year-old daughter who's already lost her mother. If we're going to do this, whatever this is, you need to understand she comes first, always. If it gets complicated or if it might hurt her, I walk away. Fair, Lena said. My condition, don't try to save me. I'm not a project. I'm not something broken you need to fix. If we do this, it's as equals. Deal? Ethan extended his hand across the table. Deal. Lena shook it, her grip firm and sure. Her hand was cold, her fingers long and elegant. When she pulled away, Ethan felt the absence like a loss. So what now? Lena asked. Now I pick up my daughter from the neighbor and make dinner. Tomorrow I have 3 repair jobs lined up. Normal life. Ethan stood, pulling out his wallet. I've got it, Lena said quickly. We're equals, remember? We split it. She smiled, a real smile this time, small but genuine. Fine. But next time I'm buying. Next time. You thought this was a one-time thing? I don't meet people who jump into rivers very often. I'm going to need more data. Ethan laughed, surprised by the sound. It felt good, like muscles he'd forgotten he had. Data, very romantic. I'm a CEO. I speak in metrics. But Lena's eyes were warm. Go be with your daughter. Text me later. About what? I don't know. Something normal. What you had for dinner? How Mia's doing. Anything that isn't about drowning or scars or death. Lena stood, rewrapping her scarf more securely. I need to remember what normal conversations feel like. Same here. They left the cafe together, stepping out into the cool October afternoon. The river was visible from the sidewalk, flowing steady and unremarkable. Hard to believe that just yesterday it had almost claimed them both in different ways. Ethan? Lena said as they reached the parking lot. Yeah? Thank you for jumping in, for not looking away, for all of it. Thank you for asking me to prove it, Ethan said. I needed a reason to try. Lena nodded, then walked to a sleek black car that probably cost more than Ethan made in a year. She paused before getting in. I meant it about getting help. I'm calling a therapist tomorrow. No more pretending I can handle everything alone. Good. Let me know how it goes. I will. She slid into the driver's seat, then rolled down the window. And Ethan? I'm glad you were there, on the bridge. I'm glad you jumped. Me too. Lena drove away, and Ethan stood in the parking lot watching her taillights disappear into traffic. His phone buzzed. A text from Mrs. Chen saying Mia was asking when he'd be home. He climbed into his old Honda, started the engine, and headed toward Riverside Heights. The afternoon light was golden, slanting through the trees that lined the road. Somewhere in the distance, the river kept flowing, carrying its secrets toward the sea. But for the first time in 8 months, Ethan felt something other than grief weighing on his chest. It wasn't happiness exactly, too fragile and new for that, but it was possibility. The sense that maybe, just maybe, the future held more than just survival. He thought about Lena's scars, about the way she'd unwound that scarf with such deliberate courage, about her request, don't try to save me. He wouldn't. But maybe they could save each other, in small ways, one conversation at a time. That felt like enough. For now, that felt like everything. The text came 3 days later, just as Ethan was finishing up a kitchen sink repair in one of the older houses on Maple Street. His hands were still wet when his phone buzzed in his pocket. I called the therapist. First session tomorrow. Thought you'd want to know. Ethan dried his hands on his jeans and typed back with pruned fingers. That's great. How are you feeling about it? The response was immediate, terrified. But I promised I'd do it, so I will. You've got this. Do I? I spent 20 minutes this morning trying to decide what to wear. Like my clothes will somehow make me less of a mess. Ethan smiled despite himself. Wear whatever makes you feel strong. I run a tech company. I don't know what makes me feel strong anymore. He hesitated, then typed, Then maybe that's what you need to figure out. A long pause followed. Ethan finished packing his tools, said goodbye to Mrs. Harrison, who'd hired him for the repair, and was halfway to his truck when the next message arrived. Can I see you tonight? I know it's short notice. I don't want to be alone right now. Ethan stood in the driveway, truck keys in hand, weighing his options. Mia had therapy after school with Dr. Chen. He could pick her up, make dinner, do homework, maintain their routine. The safe choice. The responsible choice. Or he could call Mrs. Chen again, ask another favor, take another risk on someone who might not be ready to be taken risks on. He thought about what Sarah would say. She'd always been the braver one, the one who reached out when reaching out was hard. 6 p.m. Riverside Park, near the walking trail. Bring comfortable shoes. Why comfortable shoes? Because we're going to walk. And talk. That's what normal people do, right? I wouldn't know, but I'll be there. Ethan picked up Mia from Dr. Chen's office at 4:30, listening as she chattered about the drawings she'd made during her session. She was talking more lately, smiling easier. Progress came in small increments, barely visible day to day, but undeniable over weeks. Mrs. Chen says I'm getting better at talking about my feelings, Mia announced from the back seat as they drove home. That's wonderful, sweetheart. What kind of feelings did you talk about today? Missing mommy, but also other stuff, like how I'm scared when you're not home, because what if you don't come back too? Her voice was matter of fact, the way children could be about devastating truths. But Mrs. Chen says that's normal, and it gets easier. Ethan's chest tightened. I always come back, Mia. I promise. Mommy promised too, and then she didn't. There was no good answer to that. Sarah had promised over and over that she'd fight and survive and be there for Mia's first day of school, her first crush, her graduation. And then her heart had stopped in the middle of an ordinary Wednesday afternoon, breaking every promise it won once. You're right, Ethan said quietly. Mommy wanted to keep that promise more than anything, but sometimes our bodies don't cooperate with what we want. That's not the same as choosing to leave. I know. Mia kicked her feet against the car seat. Can we have mac and cheese for dinner? The emotional whiplash of 6-year-olds never failed to catch Ethan off guard. Sure, baby, mac and cheese it is. At home, he made the dinner while Mia did homework at the kitchen table. When Mrs. Chen arrived at 5:30 to stay with Mia for a few hours, she gave Ethan a knowing look. You're seeing her again, aren't you? The woman from the river. How did you... You're wearing your good shirt, the one your wife bought you. Mrs. Chen was in her 70s, a retired school teacher with sharp eyes and a warm heart. It's okay, Ethan. Sarah would want you to live. It's not like that. We're just talking. Talking is how it starts. She patted his arm. Go. Mia and I will be fine. We're going to watch that princess movie she loves. Ethan kissed Mia goodbye, endured her suspicious questions about where he was going, and made it to Riverside Park by 5:50. Lena was already there, standing near the trailhead in dark jeans and a gray jacket, her hair pulled back in a ponytail. She'd traded her silk scarf for a simple black one that covered her neck more casually. You came early, Ethan said as he approached. I was anxious. When I'm anxious, I arrive places too soon and then feel awkward waiting. Lena fell into step beside him as they started down the trail. My therapist would probably say that's a control issue. Did you tell your therapist you were meeting me? Not yet. First session was just intake. Medical history, family background, all the surface level stuff. Lena's hands were shoved into her jacket pockets. She asked about my support system. I told her I have employees and a board of directors. She was not impressed. What about friends? I have colleagues, associates, people who want things from me. Lena glanced at him. I don't really do friends. Why not? Because friends require vulnerability, and I've spent my entire adult life building walls against that. She paused as they passed a family with young children on bikes. When you're the CEO, especially when you're young and female, you can't afford to be seen as weak. Friendship implies equality, and I can't be equal to people I might need to fire. That sounds lonely. It is, but it's safe. Lena kicked at a loose stone on the path. My therapist asked me to identify one person I could be honest with. I couldn't think of anyone. Then I thought about you, which is insane because I barely know you. Maybe that makes it easier. I don't have expectations of who you're supposed to be. Don't you? You pulled me out of a river. You saw me at my absolute worst and decided I was worth saving. That's an expectation right there. Ethan considered that. Fair point, but I don't expect you to be anything other than honest. That's all. They walked in silence for a while, following the trail as it curved alongside the river. The water was calmer today, reflecting the orange and pink of the early evening sky. Other walkers passed them, couples holding hands, joggers with earbuds, a man walking 3 small dogs that tangled their leashes around his legs. "Tell me about Sarah," Lena said suddenly. The request caught Ethan off guard. "What do you want to know?" "Everything. What she was like, how you met, why you loved her." Lena's voice was soft but intense. "I want to understand who she was, because she shaped who you are, and I'm trying to understand you." Ethan took a breath, letting the memories surface. "We met in college. She was studying education. I was doing engineering. She literally ran into me in the library, knocked a whole stack of books out of my hands, and then insisted on buying me coffee to apologize. We talked for 4 hours that night, got married 2 years later." "What was she like?" "Brave. That's the word that always comes to mind first. Not fearless. She had plenty of fears, but she faced them anyway. She wanted kids even though pregnancy terrified her. She taught in rough schools because she believed every kid deserved a good teacher, even when it was exhausting and thankless." Ethan smiled despite the ache in his chest. "She made me better. Made me want to be the kind of man who deserves someone like her." "Did you ever fight?" "All the time. She was stubborn as hell, and I can be a controlling ass when I'm worried about something. We'd argue about money, about parenting, about whose turn it was to do dishes." Ethan laughed quietly. "But we always worked it out. Always came back to each other." "What was the last thing she said to you?" The question hit like a physical blow. Ethan stopped walking, staring out at the river. "She was in the hospital. The heart monitor was beeping, but the rhythm was all wrong. I was holding her hand and Mia was asleep in the chair beside us. Sarah looked at me and said, 'Don't let grief make you small, Ethan. Promise me you'll stay big enough for both of you.'" Lena was quiet. When Ethan looked at her, he saw tears on her cheeks that she made no move to hide. "I'm sorry," she said. "That's not fair what she asked, to put that weight on you." She wasn't wrong, though. Grief does make you small if you let it. Makes your world contract until it's just you and the pain and nothing else. Ethan started walking again, slowly. "Jumping in after you, that was the first big thing I'd done since she died. Everything else has been maintenance, surviving, getting through days." "Is that why you did it? To feel big again?" "Maybe. I don't know. I just knew I couldn't watch someone die when I had the power to stop it." He looked at her. "Your turn. Tell me about the fire." Lena flinched, but she didn't deflect. "I was 7. My mother was an artist, painted these huge, beautiful canvases in our garage studio. She used oil paints, turpentine, all these flammable materials. I was supposed to be asleep, but I snuck down to watch her work. She always looked so peaceful when she painted, like she'd found some secret the rest of the world didn't know." She paused, swallowing hard. A lamp fell, knocked over a jar of turpentine. The fire spread so fast. My mother shoved me toward the door, but her clothes caught. I tried to pull her with me, grabbed her arm, but the flames— Lena's voice broke. She screamed for me to run, so I did. I ran and left her there. "You were 7 years old. You couldn't have saved her." "Couldn't I? I was already outside. I could have gotten help faster. Could have called 911 instead of just standing there screaming." Lena wiped her face roughly. "By the time the firefighters arrived, she was already gone, and I had these." She gestured to her neck. permanent reminder that I survived and she didn't. That's not how survival works. It's not a choice between you and her. Isn't it, though? If I'd been stronger, faster, smarter, you were 7. Ethan stopped walking and turned to face her fully. 7 years old, Lena, a child. The only person responsible for what happened was the accident itself. My therapist said something similar today. I didn't believe her either. Lena's smile was bitter. Apparently, I have survivor's guilt compounded by perfectionist tendencies and an unhealthy relationship with control. We covered a lot in 50 minutes. Sounds exhausting. It was. I cried for the first time in probably 5 years, just sat in her office and sobbed like a child. Lena shook her head. She asked me when I had last let myself feel anything fully. I couldn't answer. I've spent so long managing emotions, compartmentalizing everything, that I don't know how to just feel anymore. Maybe that's why you were on the bridge. All those feelings you've been holding back finally overwhelmed the walls. Probably. Lena started walking again, faster now. She wants me to keep a journal. Write down my emotions every day. I told her I don't have time, and she said to make time or I'll end up on another bridge. She's blunt. I appreciate that. Will you do it, the journal? I don't know. It feels indulgent, like I should be spending that time on something productive. Processing your emotions is productive. Ethan kept pace with her. Trust me, I learned that the hard way. After Sarah died, I tried to just power through. Be strong for Mia, keep working, maintain routine. It lasted about 3 months before I had a complete breakdown in the middle of a grocery store. Just stood in the cereal aisle crying because Sarah always bought the same brand, and I couldn't remember if Mia liked it or just ate it because her mom bought it. What did you do? Stood there crying until a kind employee brought me tissues and asked if I needed help. Then I went home, called a therapist, and started dealing with reality instead of running from it. Ethan smiled slightly. Turns out grief doesn't care about your timeline. It'll wait as long as it needs to, then hit you in the cereal aisle. Lena laughed, a surprise sound that seemed to startle her. I like that you're honest about falling apart. Most people pretend they have it together. I'm 34 and doing handyman work so I can have flexible hours to parent my traumatized daughter. I very clearly do not have it together. You jumped into a freezing river to save a stranger. That's more together than most people ever manage. Or it's the opposite. Maybe it's just reckless. Maybe reckless is what we both need right now. Lena stopped at a bench overlooking the river and sat down. Ethan joined her, leaving a respectful distance between them. Can I ask you something personal? More personal than what we've already discussed? Fair point. Lena turned to face him. Are you attracted to me? Ethan blinked, caught completely off guard. What? It's a simple question. I'm trying to understand what this is, this thing we're doing. Are you here because you feel obligated to check on the suicidal woman you rescued, or is there something else? I don't feel obligated. I'm here because I want to be. That's not an answer. Ethan took a breath, choosing honesty over safety. Yes, I'm attracted to you, but it's complicated. How? Because my wife died 8 months ago, and I'm nowhere near ready for anything serious. Because you're dealing with your own trauma and using me as some kind of test case for vulnerability. Because I have a daughter who's my entire world, and I won't risk her stability for something that might implode. He met her eyes. But yes, you're intelligent and brave and real in a way that most people aren't. So yes, I'm attracted to you. Lena absorbed this without changing expression. I'm attracted to you too, which is terrifying because I don't trust attraction. It makes people stupid and vulnerable. It doesn't have to. Doesn't it? Look at us. You dove into a river for me. I'm sitting here spilling my trauma to someone I barely know. We're both making terrible decisions based on emotional reactions rather than logic. Maybe terrible decisions are exactly what we need. Ethan surprised himself with the words. We've both been so careful, so controlled. Maybe it's okay to be a little reckless as long as we're honest about it. Honest how? We tell each other the truth. No games, no pretending. If this gets too complicated, we say so. If one of us needs space, we ask for it. If we're feeling something, we name it instead of hiding it. Lena considered this. That's a lot of vulnerability for someone who doesn't trust it. I know. But you asked me to prove you deserved a second chance. Maybe this is how, by being brave enough to try something real instead of hiding behind walls. And what do you get out of this arrangement, besides the ego boost of fixing the broken CEO? I'm not trying to fix you. I can't even fix myself. Ethan leaned back against the bench. But maybe we can figure out how to exist in the same messy space without judgment. That feels like something worth attempting. This is insane. You know that, right? We're both disasters. Completely insane, Ethan agreed. But I jumped into a river for you, so my judgment is clearly questionable anyway. Lena laughed again, and this time it sounded almost relaxed. Okay, we try this, whatever this is, with your rules about honesty and my rules about not trying to save each other. Deal. They sat in silence as the sky darkened from pink to purple. The river reflected the dying light, turning silver and mysterious. Somewhere downstream, a group of teenagers shouted and laughed, their voices carrying across the water. I should tell you something, Lena said quietly. The board wants me to take a leave of absence. They heard about what happened, not the details, but enough to be concerned about my stability. What did you tell them? That I'll take time off when the company can afford it, which is never. She sighed. But my CFO pulled me aside this afternoon and said if I don't prioritize my health, he'll call for a vote of no confidence. He's right to be worried. I've been making sloppy decisions, missing details I would normally catch. The bridge wasn't a sudden impulse. It was the culmination of months of deterioration. Will you take the leave? I don't know how. Ward Technologies is my identity. Without it, I don't know who I am. Maybe that's exactly why you need to step back. Figure out who Lena is when she's not performing CEO. That's what my therapist said. Lena pulled her jacket tighter against the cooling air. She suggested a month, 4 weeks to focus on recovery, therapy, building actual support systems. My CFO could handle operations. We have good people in place. But the thought of letting go, even temporarily, terrifies you. Yes. Do it anyway. Lena looked at him sharply. Just like that? Do the terrifying thing? You're already doing terrifying things. You called a therapist. You're sitting here being honest with a stranger. Taking a month off is just another scary step. Ethan met her gaze steadily. And you don't have to do it alone. If you need someone to talk to when the fear gets overwhelming, call me. Why would you offer that? You barely know me. Because I know what it's like to be terrified and alone. And I know how much it helps when someone offers to stand in that fear with you, even for a few minutes. He pulled out his phone. Here, put your number in. Real number, not assistant or office line. Lena took the phone, hesitated, then typed in her information. This is my personal cell. Almost nobody has this number. I'm honored. You should be. I guard it like a state secret. She handed the phone back. Fair warning, I'm a terrible texter. I either respond immediately or forget for 3 days. There's no middle ground. I'll take my chances. They stood to leave as the park lights flickered on, casting yellow pools along the path. Ethan walked Lena to her car, a sleek black Mercedes that probably cost more than his entire annual income. Thank you, Lena said as she unlocked the door. For walking, for listening, for not running away when I asked if you were attracted to me. Thank you for asking. Most people would have danced around it. I don't know how to dance around things. Blunt honesty is all I have. She paused with her hand on the door. Can I see you again? Before I decide about the leave of absence? When? Saturday? I know it's a weekend, and you probably have me at Bring her, Ethan said impulsively. Come over for dinner. Nothing fancy, just pasta and conversation. Let Mia meet you in a low-pressure context. Lena's eyes widened. You want me to meet your daughter? You said you want to try being real. My daughter is the realest part of my life. If we're doing this, whatever this is, she's part of the equation. What if she hates me? She's 6. She doesn't hate anyone except vegetables and bedtime. Ethan smiled. But if it's too much, we can... No, you're right. If we're being honest and trying something real, hiding from the important parts defeats the purpose. Lena took a breath. Saturday, dinner, your place. What should I bring? Just yourself. And maybe lower your expectations about my cooking. I have zero expectations about your cooking. I've seen your grocery store breakdown story. My bar is very low. Ethan laughed. Perfect. 6 o'clock? I'll be there. Probably early because anxiety. I'll be ready. Probably stressed because I'll be wondering why I invited my boss-level CEO friend to my rental duplex for mediocre pasta. I'm not your boss, and I don't care about your duplex. Lena's expression softened. I care about the fact that you're willing to include me in your real life instead of keeping me separate. That means something. She got in her car and drove away, and Ethan stood in the parking lot feeling the same strange mixture of terror and possibility he'd felt after their coffee meeting. He was absolutely making this more complicated than it needed to be. He should be focusing on Mia, on therapy, on rebuilding their small life into something stable and predictable. Instead, he was inviting a suicidal CEO with trust issues and extensive trauma to have dinner with his grieving daughter. Sarah's voice echoed in his mind. Don't let grief make you small, Ethan. Stay big enough for both of you. Maybe this was what staying big looked like, taking risks, making space for possibility, choosing connection over safety. Or maybe he was just an idiot who couldn't tell the difference between bravery and self-destruction. His phone buzzed with a text from Lena. I told my CFO I'd take the month, starting Monday. You were right. Terrifying but necessary. Ethan smiled and typed back. Proud of you. That took guts. Or stupidity. Time will tell. See you Saturday. And Ethan, thank you for not letting me stay small. He drove home to find Mia and Mrs. Chen watching the princess movie, Mia's head resting on the older woman's shoulder. When he came in, Mia bounced up with questions about where he'd been and what he'd done. I was walking with a friend, Ethan said, helping Mrs. Chen gather her things. What friend? Do I know them? Not yet, but you will soon. She's coming for dinner on Saturday. Mia's eyes went wide. A girlfriend? Just a friend who happens to be a girl, Ethan clarified quickly, though that wasn't entirely accurate anymore. Is she nice? Very nice. A little serious sometimes, but nice. Does she like princesses? I don't know. You'll have to ask her. After Mrs. Chen left and Mia was tucked into bed, Ethan sat in his kitchen with a beer and thought about what he was doing. Lena Ward was complicated, traumatized, controlling, brutally honest, and carrying enough emotional baggage to sink a ship. Getting involved with her while still processing his own grief was objectively a terrible idea. But when she'd asked if he was attracted to her, when she'd looked at him with those sharp green eyes waiting for truth instead of platitude, he'd felt something shift inside him. Not the desperate, drowning love he'd had with Sarah. That was unique, irreplaceable, locked in the past where it belonged. This was different, smaller, newer, fragile as glass. It was the feeling of maybe, of what if, of taking a breath after holding it for too long. His phone buzzed again. Lena, breaking her own rules about response time. My therapist just emailed. She wants to add a second session per week during my leave. Says I'm a challenging case. I'm choosing to take that as a compliment. Definitely a compliment, Ethan wrote back. Challenging means interesting, or broken beyond simple repair. Number. Challenging means worth the effort. A long pause, then, you really believe that, don't you? That people are worth effort even when they're difficult. I have to believe it. Otherwise, what's the point of any of this? Good question. Let me know when you figure out the answer. Deal. Now, go to sleep. Tomorrow's a big day. Yes, Dad. Ethan smiled and set his phone aside. He finished his beer in the quiet house, listening to the familiar sounds of home, the refrigerator humming, the clock ticking, Mia's soft breathing from down the hall. Safe sounds. Predictable sounds. But underneath them, barely audible, was something new. The whisper of possibility. The quiet promise of Saturday dinner, of honest conversation, of trying something real with someone who scared him and intrigued him in equal measure. The river had brought them together in violence and desperation. Now they were choosing to stay together in the calmer waters of ordinary days. Whether that made them brave or foolish remained to be seen. Either way, Ethan thought as he rinsed his beer bottle and headed to bed, it was better than standing still. Better than letting grief keep him small and safe and alone. Sarah would approve. He was almost certain of that. And that, for now, was enough. Saturday arrived with unseasonable warmth, the kind of October day that felt like summer's last apology before winter set in for good. Ethan spent the morning cleaning the duplex with an intensity that made Mia ask twice if the president was coming for dinner. "Just a friend, sweetheart," he said for the third time, scrubbing the kitchen counter like it had personally offended him. "You cleaned the bathroom," Mia pointed out from her perch at the kitchen table, where she was coloring with fierce concentration. "You never clean the bathroom unless Grandma's visiting." "I clean the bathroom all the time." "Not like this. You use the special spray." She looked up, her eyes too knowing for 6 years old. "Is this friend special?" Ethan paused mid-scrub. "She's someone I care about. Someone who's going through a hard time like we did when Mommy got sick. I want her to feel welcome here." "Is she sad?" "Sometimes, yeah." "Does she cry a lot like you did?" The question hit Ethan square in the chest. He'd thought he'd hidden those first terrible months better, but children saw everything. "I did cry a lot, didn't I?" "It's okay, Daddy. Mrs. Chen says crying is how we wash the sad out." Mia returned to her coloring, adding purple flowers to what looked like a very elaborate princess castle. "I cry too sometimes. Usually at night when I think you can't hear." Ethan set down the sponge and crossed to the table, kneeling beside his daughter's chair. "Mia, baby, you can always cry when I can hear. You don't have to hide it. But you get sad when I'm sad. I see your face change. That's because I love you, and when you hurt, I hurt too. But that doesn't mean you should hide your feelings. We're supposed to share them, remember? Like Dr. Chen said." Mia nodded solemnly. "Okay. Can I tell you something?" "Anything." "Sometimes I forget what Mommy's voice sounded like. And that makes me scared that I'll forget all of her." Her lower lip trembled. "Is that bad?" Ethan pulled her into his arms, coloring book and all. "No, sweetheart. That's not bad. That's just how memory works sometimes. But we have videos, remember? We can watch them whenever you want to hear her voice. Promise?" "Promise." They sat like that for a long moment, Mia's small body warm against his chest, her hair smelling like the strawberry shampoo Sarah used to buy. Ethan thought about Lena coming over in a few hours, about how terrifying it was to let someone new into this fragile ecosystem he and Mia had built from grief and necessity. But then he thought about Lena's words at the river. "I want to understand who she was, because she shaped who you are. Someone willing to make space for Sarah's memory instead of competing with it. That felt important. That felt like something worth the risk." At 5:30, Ethan was stirring marinara sauce and questioning every decision that had led to this moment when his phone rang. Lena's name flashed on the screen. "Please don't cancel," he said by way of greeting. "I'm outside your building having a panic attack in my car," Lena said, her voice tight and breathless. "I bought flowers and wine, and I can't remember if you said you drink wine or if I just assumed that because that's what people bring to dinner parties. And I've never actually been to a casual dinner party because all mine are catered events with specific networking objectives. And, Lena, breathe. I'm breathing. It's not helping. Count to 4 as you inhale. Hold for 4. Exhale for 4. Ethan put the phone on speaker and continued stirring sauce. "Do it with me. Ready? In for 4. He heard her ragged breath, then slowly it steadied as she matched his rhythm. They breathed together for a full minute, Ethan counting quietly, Lena following along. "Better?" he asked finally. "Marginally. I still have flowers and wine and no idea what I'm doing here. You're coming to have pasta with me and my 6-year-old daughter, that's all. No performance required. What if she hates me?" "She won't. You can't know that. Lena, I've seen you face down a river and a therapy session. You can handle a first grader who likes princesses and mac and cheese. Come on, we're on the 2nd floor, Unit 2B. A long pause. "Okay, I'm coming up. But if this goes badly, I'm blaming you." "Fair enough." The doorbell rang 2 minutes later. Ethan wiped his hands on a dish towel and opened the door to find Lena standing in the hallway looking absolutely terrified. She wore jeans and a soft blue sweater, her hair down, minimal makeup, and a dark scarf wrapped loosely around her neck. In her hand she clutched a bouquet of sunflowers and a bottle of red wine. "Hi," she said, her voice small. "Hi, come in." Ethan stepped aside, and Lena entered the duplex like she was walking into a minefield. Her eyes swept the space, taking in the worn couch, the mismatched furniture, the photos of Sarah on the walls that Ethan hadn't been able to take down. "Your wife was beautiful," Lena said quietly, looking at a photo of Sarah and Mia at the beach. She was. Inside and out. Ethan took the flowers and wine. "Thank you for these. You didn't have to." "I didn't know what else to do with my hands during the car panic attack, so I stopped at 3 different stores." Lena managed a weak smile. "I have backup flowers in the car if these are wrong somehow." "They're perfect. Mia loves sunflowers." As if summoned, Mia appeared in the kitchen doorway, her purple dress on and her hair in the pigtails she'd insisted Ethan learn to do after Sarah died. She studied Lena with the frank, unfiltered assessment only children could manage. "You're pretty," Mia announced, "but you look scared. Are you scared of me?" Lena blinked, clearly not expecting such directness. "A little bit, yes." "Why?" "Because I've never met someone as important as you before, and I want you to like me." Mia considered this. "I'm not important. I'm just 6. You're the most important person in your dad's life. That makes you very important." Lena crouched down to Mia's level, her expensive jeans touching the worn carpet. "I'm Lena. It's nice to meet you." "I'm Mia. Do you like princesses?" "I don't know much about them. Do you?" "I know everything about them. Do you want me to tell you?" "I would love that." And just like that, Mia took Lena's hand and led her to the couch, chattering about Cinderella and Aurora and Belle with the enthusiasm of someone who'd found a fresh audience. Ethan watched from the kitchen, stirring sauce and trying not to read too much into the way Lena listened with genuine attention, asking questions and nodding seriously at Mia's explanations. Dinner was chaotic in the best way. Mia insisted on showing Lena her room before they ate, giving a full tour that included detailed backstories for each stuffed animal and a demonstration of how high she could jump on her bed. Lena took it all in with surprising patience, even when Mia accidentally knocked over a cup of water and burst into tears, convinced she'd ruined everything. "Hey, it's just water," Lena said gently, helping Ethan sop up the spill with paper towels. "I spilled an entire pot of coffee on my desk last week. This is nothing." "Really?" Mia sniffled. "Really? And I'm the CEO, so if I can spill things and survive, you definitely can." "What's a CEO?" "Someone who's in charge of a company. Lots of people work for me." Mia's eyes went wide. "Are you rich?" "Mia," Ethan said quickly. "That's not polite to ask." "It's okay," Lena said. "Yes, I have money. But money doesn't make you happy. Do you know what does?" "What?" "People who care about you, like your dad. He jumped into a freezing river to save me, which means he's very brave and very kind." "He jumped in a river?" Mia looked at Ethan with new respect. "You didn't tell me that part." "It wasn't a big deal," Ethan said, bringing pasta to the table. "It was a huge deal," Lena corrected. "I was drowning, and your dad saved my life. He's a hero." Mia beamed at this, and Ethan felt his face heat. "Can we please eat before the food gets cold?" They sat around the small kitchen table, Mia between them, and ate spaghetti with marinara sauce that was slightly too salty, but no one mentioned it. Lena asked Mia about school, about her favorite subjects, about what she wanted to be when she grew up. Mia asked Lena about her scars with the blunt curiosity of childhood. "What happened to your neck?" Mia pointed at where Lena's scarf had slipped slightly during the water cleanup. "Mia, that's—" Ethan started, but Lena held up a hand. "It's okay. She's just curious." Lena carefully unwound the scarf, revealing the burn scars in the bright kitchen light. "I was in a fire when I was 7, just a little older than you. I got hurt, but I survived." Mia studied the scars seriously. "Did it hurt?" "Very much, for a long time." "Does it still hurt now?" "Sometimes. Not the scars themselves, but the memory of how I got them." Lena's voice was steady, matter of fact. "But I'm learning that it's okay to have scars. They're part of my story." "Mommy had scars too," Mia said quietly. "From the hospital. She said they were her battle marks from fighting the sickness." Lena glanced at Ethan, and he nodded slightly, giving permission for this conversation to continue. Your mom sounds like she was very brave, Lena said. She was. She died, though. Mia said it simply, the way she'd learned to in therapy. Her heart stopped working. I'm so sorry, Mia. That must have been very hard. It was. I cried a lot. Sometimes I still do. Mia twirled spaghetti on her fork. But Daddy says it's okay to be sad and it gets easier even though it never goes totally away. Your dad is very wise. He is. He's the best daddy in the whole world. Mia looked at Ethan with pure love, and he had to look away before he started crying into his pasta. After dinner, Mia insisted on showing Lena her favorite movie, which meant all three of them squeezed onto the couch, with Mia in the middle, watching an animated princess story Ethan had seen approximately 47 times. Halfway through, Mia fell asleep with her head on Lena's lap. Should I move her? Lena whispered. Not yet. She's comfortable. Ethan paused the movie. You're good with her. I'm terrified I'm going to say the wrong thing and traumatize her further. You're doing fine. Better than fine. She likes you. How can you tell? She fell asleep on you. Mia doesn't do that with people she doesn't trust. Ethan looked at his daughter, her face peaceful in sleep. She hasn't done that with anyone except me and Mrs. Chen since Sarah died. Lena's hand rested carefully on Mia's hair, not quite stroking, but present. She's remarkable. So open about her grief. So willing to talk about hard things. We've worked hard on that in therapy. Dr. Chen says emotional honesty prevents bigger problems later. I wish someone had taught me that when I was young. Lena's expression was distant. After my mother died, everyone told me to be strong, to move forward, to focus on healing physically. No one ever asked how I felt about watching her burn. It's not too late to learn. That's what therapy is for. I know. My therapist said the same thing. Lena smiled slightly. I'm starting to think you two are conspiring against my defensive walls. Is it working? Disturbingly well. I cried during my session yesterday. Actual tears, not just watery eyes. She asked me to describe my mother before the fire, and I couldn't do it without breaking down. That's progress. It's humiliating. It's human. Ethan shifted to face her better. You spent 23 years not crying about your mother. Of course it's going to be intense when you finally let yourself feel it. Is that what it was like when Sarah died? Did you let yourself feel it, or did you try to hold it together? Both. I fell apart completely for the first month, then tried to hold it together for Mia, then fell apart again when that didn't work. Grief isn't linear. Some days I'm fine, some days I can't get out of bed. Ethan looked at Sarah's photo on the wall. But it does get easier. The waves get further apart. The moments of peace last longer. Do you still love her? The question was soft, tentative. Ethan took his time answering. I'll always love her. She's Mia's mother, and we built a life together that doesn't just disappear. He met Lena's eyes. But I'm also learning that loving Sarah's memory doesn't mean I can't have space for new things, new people, new possibilities. Is that what I am? A new possibility? I don't know yet. What do you want to be? Lena looked down at Mia sleeping peacefully in her lap. I want to be someone who gets to be part of this. Someone who deserves to be here. But I don't know if I'm capable of that kind of openness. You're here now, that's a start. I'm terrified I'm going to ruin this somehow. Say the wrong thing, do something that hurts Mia, prove I'm too damaged to be around normal, healthy people. We're not normal or healthy, Ethan said gently. We're grieving and traumatized and doing our best to survive. You fit right in. Lena laughed quietly, careful not to wake Mia. That's the saddest pep talk I've ever heard. But accurate. Unfortunately, yes. She looked at him seriously. Can I tell you something I haven't told my therapist yet? Of course. I'm scared of how much I already care about you. And Mia, I've known you less than 2 weeks, and I'm already thinking about you constantly, wondering how you're doing, whether Mia had a good day at school, if you're eating properly, or just surviving on coffee and stress. Lena's voice dropped lower. That's not normal for me. I don't do attachment. I don't do caring this much this fast. Maybe it's not about fast or slow. Maybe it's about real. Ethan reached over Mia's sleeping form and took Lena's free hand. You asked me to prove you deserved a second chance. I think you're trying to prove to yourself that you're capable of connection, of letting people in. What if I fail? What if I hurt you, or worse, hurt Mia? Then we'll deal with it, but you can't protect us from pain by staying away. Life is painful, connection is risky. We do it anyway because the alternative is worse. Loneliness. Exactly. Lena squeezed his hand, her grip tight and slightly desperate. My therapist wants me to identify what I'm most afraid of. I told her abandonment, which is true. But the deeper fear is that I'll let someone in and they'll see all of me, the scars, the trauma, the broken parts, and decide I'm not worth the effort. I've seen your scars. I've heard about your trauma. I know you tried to end your life on a bridge 2 weeks ago. Ethan kept his voice steady, certain. And I'm still here, still holding your hand, still wanting to know you better. Why? What's wrong with you that you choose this level of complicated? Maybe I'm tired of simple. Maybe complicated is more honest. He smiled slightly. Or maybe I just recognize someone who's fighting as hard as I am to stay above water. Before Lena could respond, Mia stirred and sat up, rubbing her eyes. Did the movie end? Not yet, sweetheart. You fell asleep. Ethan checked his watch, 7:30. But it's getting close to bedtime. Can Lena stay for bedtime story? Mia looked at Lena hopefully. Please? Lena glanced at Ethan, uncertain. He nodded slightly. I'd be honored, Lena said. 20 minutes later, all three of them were crowded onto Mia's twin bed while Ethan read from a well-worn copy of a fairy tale collection. Mia was tucked under her purple comforter, her favorite stuffed rabbit clutched to her chest. Lena sat on the edge of the bed, still and careful, like she was afraid of breaking the moment. And they lived happily ever after, Ethan finished, closing the book. The end. I like that one, Mia said sleepily. Lena, do you have a favorite princess? I don't know them well enough to choose. Which one should be my favorite? Belle. Because she likes books and sees the good in people even when they're scary on the outside. Mia's eyes were already drifting closed. Like the beast. He had scars too, kind of. Lena's breath caught. She sounds very wise, this Belle. She is. You should read her story. Daddy has the book. Mia yawned widely. Will you come back for dinner again? Would you like me to? Yes. You're nice, and you make Daddy smile with his real smile, not his sad smile. Ethan felt his throat tighten. He hadn't realized Mia could tell the difference. Then I'll come back, Lena promised. If your dad says it's okay. It's very okay, Ethan managed. Mia nodded, satisfied, and within minutes her breathing evened into sleep. Ethan kissed her forehead and turned off the light, leaving just her nightlight glowing softly. He and Lena tiptoed out, closing the door gently behind them. In the living room, they stood awkwardly for a moment, the evening suddenly feeling over, but neither quite ready to end it. Thank you for coming, Ethan said, for being patient with Mia, for sharing dinner, for all of it. Thank you for inviting me into your home, into your life. Lena twisted her hands together. I meant what I said about already caring too much. I know. I'm scared too. Yeah? Terrified. You're the first person I've felt anything for since Sarah died. That's exhilarating and terrifying in equal measure. What do we do about it? We could run, protect ourselves, maintain distance, stay safe. Ethan stepped closer. Or we could be brave. See where this goes. Accept that it might hurt, but try anyway. I vote brave, Lena said quietly, even though everything in me wants to run. Same here. They stood close enough that Ethan could smell her perfume, something subtle and expensive. Close enough to see the flecks of gold in her green eyes. Close enough to kiss, if he was brave enough. But before he could decide, Lena's phone rang, shattering the moment. She glanced at the screen and her expression hardened. It's my CFO. I have to take this. She answered with a curt, Ward, then listened, her face growing progressively paler. When did this happen? How bad is the breach? Ethan watched as her entire demeanor shifted from soft and vulnerable to sharp and commanding in seconds. This was CEO Lena, the woman who ran a billion-dollar company. "I'm handling it. Give me 20 minutes." She ended the call and looked at Ethan apologetically. "There's a security breach at the company. Potential data leak. I need to, go." "Of course. Do what you need to do." "I'm supposed to be on leave. My CFO promised he could handle operations." "This sounds like an emergency. Emergencies don't care about leave schedules." Ethan walked her to the door. "Go be CEO. Save your company. We'll still be here when you're done." Lena paused at the door, her hand on the knob. "I don't want to leave. This was the first normal evening I've had in months, maybe years, and I want to stay in it." "Then come back when you can. The door's open." She kissed his cheek quickly, a brief press of lips that was over before he could react. "Thank you. For tonight. For everything." Then she was gone, her footsteps quick on the stairs, and Ethan was alone in his quiet duplex with his sleeping daughter and the lingering scent of expensive perfume. His phone buzzed an hour later. "Lena, security breach contained, minor crisis averted, but my board called an emergency meeting for Monday morning. They're pushing hard for my leave to become permanent." Ethan, "What are you going to do?" Lena, "Fight. I'm not giving up my company without a battle, but I'm also not going back to who I was before the bridge." Ethan, "Good. You're stronger than you think." Lena, "Mia called me nice. No one's called me nice in years. I might have cried in my car about it." Ethan, "She's perceptive, and she's right." Lena, "I'm coming back to your duplex, to this thing we're trying. I need you to know that. Whatever happens with the company, I'm not running from this." Ethan, "I'm not running either. We face it together." Lena, "Together. I like that word. Unfamiliar, but good." Ethan set his phone down and checked on Mia, who was sleeping peacefully with her rabbit tucked under one arm. He thought about Lena's fear of abandonment, her terror of letting people see her scars. He thought about his own fear of moving forward, of betraying Sarah's memory by finding happiness again. But mostly, he thought about Mia's words. "You make Daddy smile with his real smile, not his sad smile." His daughter deserved to see him truly happy, and maybe, just maybe, he deserved it too. They both did. All three of them, Ethan, Mia, and Lena, with her burned scars and broken walls and fierce determination to be brave. The river had tried to take Lena, but she'd survived. They'd both survived their separate drownings, and now they were learning to breathe again in the same space. That had to count for something. That had to be worth the risk of trying. Ethan's phone buzzed one more time before he went to bed. Lena again. "Sweet dreams, Ethan Cole. Thank you for seeing me." He smiled in the darkness and typed back, "Sweet dreams, Lena Ward. Thank you for letting me." Outside, the October night was cool and clear. Somewhere in the distance, the Alder River flowed on toward morning, carrying its secrets and its second chances into whatever came next. The emergency board meeting happened at 9 Monday morning, and Lena texted Ethan at 8:45 from the parking garage. Beneath Ward Technologies headquarters. "I'm about to walk into a room full of men who want to remove me from my own company. Tell me something real, so I remember why I'm fighting." Ethan was making Mia's breakfast, phone balanced on the counter while he poured cereal. Mia woke up singing this morning. First time since Sarah died. She said it's because she dreamed about princesses and nice ladies with scars who listen. The response came quickly. "I'm going to cry before this meeting even starts. That's not helpful." "Yes, it is. It reminds you what matters. Go show them who Lena Ward really is." "The terrified woman who tried to drown herself 2 weeks ago?" "No, the brave woman who chose to live, the one who's strong enough to ask for help. They're scared of that version because she's real." A longer pause this time, then, "Okay, I'm going in. Wish me luck." "You don't need luck. You need truth. Tell them the truth and let them deal with it." Ethan didn't hear from her for 3 hours. He finished his morning repair job, picked up supplies for an afternoon plumbing fix, and was debating whether to text her when his phone finally rang. "I told them everything," Lena said without preamble. Her voice was raw, exhausted, but steady. "About the bridge, the therapy, the leave of absence, all of it. How did they react?" "Marcus Holloway, he's our largest shareholder and biggest pain in my ass, stood up and said I was clearly unfit to lead, that mental instability was grounds for removal. Lena laughed, a bitter sound. He had documentation ready, a whole presentation about liability and investor confidence and crisis management. Ethan pulled over into a coffee shop parking lot, giving her his full attention. What did you do? I agreed with him. What? I said he was absolutely right that I'd been unstable, that I'd been making poor decisions, missing critical details, running on autopilot while falling apart internally. I owned all of it. Her voice strengthened. Then I told them that the old Lena would have hidden it, would have kept performing until something catastrophic happened. But the new Lena was strong enough to recognize she needed help and brave enough to get it. Lena, I told them about my mother, about the fire, about spending 23 years building walls so high that I forgot how to be human. I showed them my scars. Her voice cracked slightly. I took off my scarf in front of the entire board and showed them what I've been hiding since I took over this company. Ethan's chest tightened. That must have been terrifying. It was the most terrifying thing I've ever done. Worse than the bridge, honestly, because I was choosing vulnerability instead of escape. She took a shaky breath. Marcus looked disgusted. A few others looked uncomfortable. But my CFO, David, he stood up and said that what I'd just done took more courage than any business decision he'd ever witnessed. He's right. Then Maria Chen from operations said she'd rather have a CEO who was honest about struggling than one who pretended to be perfect while driving the company into the ground. And Jonathan from finance said his sister had attempted suicide last year and he wished she'd had the courage to ask for help the way I was doing. So what happened? We voted. Marcus pushed for my immediate removal. David countered with a proposal that I take my planned month of leave, work with my therapist, and return with a clearer separation between my personal struggles and company operations. He suggested we implement better support systems, mental health resources for all employees, not just leadership. Lena's voice was thick with emotion. It passed, 8-4. I keep my position, I keep my company, but I have to actually take care of myself as a condition of staying. That's incredible. It's humiliating. Everyone knows now. Everyone knows I stood on a bridge and tried to end it all. No, Ethan said firmly. Everyone knows you faced something impossible and you're fighting back. That's not humiliating. That's powerful. Lena was quiet for a moment. After the meeting, Maria pulled me aside. She told me her daughter has burn scars from a car accident. She said seeing me take off that scarf might be the thing that finally convinces her daughter she doesn't have to hide either. See? You're already making a difference. I'm exhausted, Ethan. It's not even noon and I feel like I've run a marathon. That's because you just fought the hardest battle of your life and won. You're allowed to be exhausted. He paused. Where are you now? Sitting in my car in the parking garage. I can't bring myself to go back up to my office yet. Then don't. Go home. Rest. Process what just happened. I don't know how to rest. I don't know what to do with myself when I'm not working. Learn. That's what this month is for. Ethan checked the time. I have a job until 3, then I'm picking up Mia from school. Want to come over for dinner again? Nothing fancy, just company. I shouldn't. You've already done so much. I'm not doing anything except making extra spaghetti. Yes or no? Another pause. Yes. But I'm bringing real food this time. I'm ordering from that Italian place downtown. You're not living on boxed pasta while I'm around. You don't have to. I want to. Let me do something normal, like feeding people I care about, please. The vulnerability in those last words made Ethan's decision easy. Okay, 6 o'clock. And Lena? I'm proud of you. What you did today was extraordinary. I'm just trying not to drown. Same as always. No. You're choosing to swim. Big difference. After they hung up, Ethan sat in his truck for a long moment, processing. Lena had stood in front of her board and revealed everything she'd spent years hiding. Had chosen honesty over safety, vulnerability over control. That kind of courage didn't come from nowhere. It came from practice, from support, from believing that truth might actually be worth the risk. He thought about his own truth, the one he'd been avoiding. He was falling for her. fast and terrifying and completely inconvenient, but undeniably real. A woman he'd known for 2 weeks had somehow become essential to his daily landscape. He thought about her when he woke up, checked his phone hoping for her messages, felt lighter when she was around. That should have scared him more than it did. Should have felt like betraying Sarah, like moving on too quickly, like all the things grief was supposed to make impossible. But Sarah's last words echoed, "Don't let grief make you small, Ethan. Stay big enough for both of you." Loving Lena didn't make him smaller. It made him bigger, braver, more alive than he'd felt in months. And maybe that was exactly what Sarah had meant. At 3:15, he picked up Mia from school and told her Lena was coming for dinner again. "Really?" Mia's face lit up. "Can I show her my new drawing? I made one of all of us." "All of us?" "You, me, and Lena. We're at the park with flowers." Mia pulled a folded paper from her backpack. The drawing was pure 6-year-old chaos, 3 stick figures with huge smiles standing near something that might have been sunflowers, or possibly just yellow scribbles. But in the corner, in Mia's careful printing, were the words, "My family." Ethan's throat closed. "Sweetheart, Lena is our friend, but I know she's not my new mommy. I know mommy is always my mommy." Mia looked at him seriously. "But friends can be family too, right? That's what you always say about Mrs. Chen." "That's true. Friends can definitely be family. Then Lena can be family friend. Is that okay?" What could Ethan say to that? That it was too soon, too fast, too complicated? That he was terrified of his daughter getting attached to someone who might leave? That he didn't know if Lena was ready for the weight of being family to a grieving child? But he looked at Mia's hopeful face and thought about Lena taking off her scarf in front of the board, about choosing bravery over fear. "Yeah, baby, that's okay." Lena arrived at 6, carrying enough Italian food to feed 10 people and looking simultaneously exhausted and wired. She'd changed from her business suit into jeans and a sweater, but her eyes had the stretched look of someone running on adrenaline and fear. "I might have over-ordered," she said, setting bags on the kitchen counter. "I couldn't decide between chicken marsala and eggplant parmesan, so I got both, plus 3 types of pasta, salad, breadsticks, and tiramisu." "Lena, this is enough food for a week. I'm stress ordering. It's a thing." She started unpacking containers with slightly manic energy. "My therapist says I'm replacing one control behavior with another, but at least this one involves feeding people instead of starving myself of human connection." Mia appeared in the kitchen doorway, holding her drawing. "Lena, I made you something." Lena's frantic unpacking stopped. She turned to Mia with visible effort to shift from stress mode to present mode. "You made something for me?" "For all of us. Look." Mia thrust the drawing forward proudly. Lena took it carefully, studying the 3 stick figures. Her expression did something complicated, shifting from surprise to recognition to something that might have been longing or fear or both. "This is beautiful, Mia. Can you tell me about it?" "That's you, that's Daddy, that's me. We're at the park where you and Daddy walk, and those are sunflowers because you brought them last time and I loved them." Mia pointed to the words in the corner. "See? It says my family, because you're a family friend now." Lena looked at Ethan, something desperate in her eyes. He stepped in before she had to respond. "Mia, why don't you wash your hands for dinner? Lena brought us a feast." After Mia scampered off, Lena carefully set the drawing on the counter. "Ethan, she can't think of me as family. That's too much pressure. What if I mess this up? What if I can't be what she needs?" "Hey, breathe, she's 6. Family friend is just her way of saying she likes you. It doesn't come with a contract." "But what if she gets attached and I hurt her? What if I have another breakdown, or the board changes their mind and I lose everything, or I wake up one day and decide this is all too hard?" Lena's voice was rising. "I can't be responsible for her heart, Ethan. I can barely handle my own." Ethan moved closer, taking her hands. "You're spiraling. What happened at the board meeting?" "Everything happened. I exposed myself. I won. I'm terrified. I'm exhausted. And now your daughter is drawing me into your family, and I don't know if I can handle that kind of hope." "You don't have to handle anything right now except dinner. One moment at a time, remember?" "One moment at a time," Lena repeated, but her hands were shaking in his. Dinner was quieter than the previous visit. Mia chattered about school, about her friend Emma who'd brought cookies for the whole class, about the art project they were starting on planets. Lena participated, but Ethan could see her holding herself carefully, like she was afraid of breaking something precious. After Mia went to bed, Ethan and Lena sat on the couch with leftover tiramisu and the kind of heavy silence that comes after a day of too many emotions. "I'm sorry I freaked out," Lena said finally. "About the drawing. You don't need to apologize. It's a lot." "It is. But it's also the most wonderful thing anyone's included me in for years, and that makes it more terrifying." She set down her dessert plate. "I told my therapist about you today, about Mia, about how much I care already, and how that scares me." "What did she say?" "That I'm using fear as a shield against disappointment, that I'm so convinced people will leave that I'm preparing to push them away first." Lena looked at him. "She's not wrong. I've done it my whole life. Got close to someone in college once, a guy who said he loved me. Then I showed him my scars, and he couldn't look at me the same way. So I stopped letting anyone close enough to hurt me. I'm not him. I know, you've proven that, but old patterns are hard to break." She twisted her hands together. "She asked me what I wanted, not what I was afraid of, but what I actually wanted, and I couldn't answer her. Can you answer me?" Lena met his eyes, hers bright with unshed tears. "I want this. You, Mia, normal dinners and drawings, and feeling like maybe I could belong somewhere. But I also want to run because wanting things gives them power to hurt you. So don't run. Stay scared. Stay wanting. See what happens. What if what happens is I ruin everything? What if what happens is you don't?" Ethan shifted closer. "What if you're stronger and more capable of this than you think? What if fear is just fear and not prophecy? You make it sound simple. It's not simple. It's terrifying. But we're both already terrified, so we might as well be terrified together." Lena laughed, watery and real. "That's terrible logic." "It's the best I've got." She leaned against him, her head on his shoulder, and for a long moment they just sat there. Ethan could feel her breathing gradually slow, the tension leaving her body in increments. "Tell me about Sarah," she said quietly. "Not the dying part, the living part. What made her laugh? What did she love?" So Ethan told her. About Sarah's terrible singing voice that she used anyway, loudly and off-key. About her obsession with terrible reality TV shows that she watched with scholarly attention. About the way she'd snort when she laughed really hard, a sound she hated but that Ethan had loved. About her belief that every kid deserved a champion, which made her the kind of teacher students remembered 20 years later. "She sounds incredible," Lena said when he finished. She was, but she wasn't perfect. She could hold a grudge like nobody's business. She was terrible with money. She once got us lost for 4 hours because she refused to admit she'd taken a wrong turn. Ethan smiled at the memories. "I loved her completely, imperfections and all. Do you think she'd approve of me, of this?" Ethan thought about it honestly. "She'd probably think you were too intense and needed to relax more. She'd definitely lecture you about work-life balance, but yeah, I think she'd approve. She believed people deserve second chances, especially people who were brave enough to fight for them. I'm trying to be brave. Some days I'm better at it than others." "Same here." Lena sat up, turning to face him. "I need to tell you something, and I need you to really hear me. Can you do that?" "Of course." "I'm falling for you, Ethan Cole. Fast and terrifying and completely against my better judgment. I think about you constantly. I check my phone hoping you've texted. I make decisions based on whether they'll bring me closer to you or push me further away." She took a shaky breath. "And it scares me to death because the last time I let myself feel this much, I ended up alone and convinced I was unlovable. I can't go through that again." Ethan reached for her hands. "I'm falling for you too. Have been since you asked if I'd still have jumped in if I'd known about your scars. Since you showed up early for coffee because you were anxious. Since you sat through Mia's princess lecture with genuine interest." He squeezed her fingers. "And I'm scared too. Scared I'm dishonoring Sarah's memory. Scared I'm moving too fast. Scared Mia will get hurt if this doesn't work out. But I'm more scared of letting fear make my decisions. So what do? We try. Carefully, honestly, one day at a time. We mess up and we talk about it. We get scared and we admit it. We build something real instead of something perfect. Lena kissed him then, sudden and fierce and slightly desperate. Ethan kissed back, his hand coming up to cup her face, feeling the textured skin of her scars under his palm. She made a small sound against his mouth, something between relief and fear. When they pulled apart, both breathing hard, Lena pressed her forehead to his. "I don't know how to do this," she whispered. "How to be with someone. How to let someone see me and stay anyway." "Neither do I. Not anymore. Not since Sarah." Ethan's thumb traced her cheekbone. "But we'll figure it out together." "Together," Lena repeated, testing the word. "I'm starting to really like that word." They sat together as the evening deepened into night, talking about everything and nothing. Lena told him about her first therapy session after the board meeting, how she'd cried for 40 minutes straight and her therapist had just sat there, present and patient. Ethan told her about the moment he'd realized Sarah was really gone, how he'd stood in their bedroom holding her favorite sweater and finally understood she wasn't coming back. At 11, Lena's phone rang. She glanced at it and groaned. "It's Marcus Holloway, probably calling to gloat or threaten or both." "You don't have to answer." "I do. He's still on the board." She accepted the call, her voice shifting to cool professionalism. "Marcus, what can I do for you?" Ethan watched her face change as she listened. Surprise, then confusion, then something that might have been shock. "I see. Thank you for calling. We'll discuss this at the next meeting." She ended the call and stared at her phone like it had betrayed her. "What happened?" "Marcus is stepping down from the board. He says after my presentation today, he realized he can't in good conscience serve alongside someone who's that open about mental health struggles. He thinks it sets a dangerous precedent for the company." Lena's voice was flat, processing. "He's selling his shares." "I'm sorry." "I'm not. He was always going to be a problem, but his shares are significant. If they go to someone hostile, I could still lose my position. Or they could go to someone who believes in what you're building, someone who sees strength in honesty." Lena looked at him, something fierce and determined replacing the shock. "You're right. This is an opportunity, not a crisis. I can reach out to investors I trust, people who align with where I want to take the company, people who won't see my therapy as weakness." There you go. CEO Lena is back. CEO Lena never left. She's just learning to coexist with regular Lena. She stood, gathering her things. "I should go. I have calls to make, strategy to plan. But, Ethan?" "Yeah?" "Thank you. For tonight. For believing I'm stronger than my fear. For kissing me like I'm someone worth choosing." "You are worth choosing. Don't forget that." At the door, Lena kissed him again, softer this time, less desperate and more certain. "I'll text you tomorrow, after I've destroyed Marcus Holloway's attempt to sabotage my company." "I have no doubt you will." She left with her shoulders straight and her stride confident, and Ethan watched her go feeling that same mixture of terror and possibility. They were in this now, whatever this was. No more testing the waters, no more careful distance. They were choosing each other with full knowledge of the risks. His phone buzzed minutes after she left. "Lena, my therapist is going to have a field day with this. I just went from terrified of attachment to fully attached in the span of one tiramisu." Ethan, "That's the power of really good tiramisu." Lena, "Or really good company. I vote company." Ethan, "I'm glad you're not running." Lena, "I'm glad you gave me a reason to stay." Sweet dreams, Ethan Cole. Ethan, "Sweet dreams, Lena Ward. Go save your company. I'll be here when you're done." He checked on Mia one last time before bed. She was sleeping peacefully, her drawing of the three of them propped on her nightstand. "Family friend," she'd called Lena. Such simple words for such complicated truth. But maybe that's what they needed. Simplicity underneath the complication. Care underneath the fear. The basic human truth that connection was worth the risk of hurt. Ethan turned off the light and headed to his own room, where Sarah's photo still sat on the dresser. He picked it up, studying her smile, her eyes, the way she'd looked at the camera like she knew something wonderful the photographer didn't. "I think you'd like her," he told the photo quietly. She's scared and brave and honest in ways that surprise her. She makes Mia smile. She makes me want to be better. He paused. I hope that's okay. I hope you understand that loving her doesn't mean loving you less. The photo didn't answer, but somehow Ethan felt lighter anyway. Like Sarah's last words had finally taken root and bloomed into permission. Permission to stay big, to risk hurt, to build something new while honoring what came before. He set the photo back on the dresser and climbed into bed, his phone on the nightstand in case Lena needed him. Outside his window, the October stars burned cold and distant, and somewhere in the city, the Alder River flowed on toward tomorrow. The call came at 2 a.m. 3 weeks later, Ethan's phone buzzing insistently on his nightstand until he fumbled for it in the dark. Ethan, Lena's voice was tight, breathless. I need you. Can you come? He was already sitting up, instantly alert. What happened? Are you okay? I'm at the hospital. It's Mia. No, wait, not Mia. I'm sorry, I'm not making sense. She took a ragged breath. There was a fire at one of our data centers, small one, contained quickly, but I was there when it happened and I can't breathe right. I'm in the ER and they're saying panic attack, but I can't make it stop. I'm coming. Text me which hospital. Ethan was already out of bed, pulling on jeans. Stay on the phone with me until I get there. You can't leave Mia alone. Mrs. Chen is 2 doors down. I'll wake her. Lena, stay with me. Tell me what you see right now. White walls, fluorescent lights. A nurse keeps checking on me, but I can't understand what she's saying. Everything sounds underwater. Her breathing was rapid, panicked. I can smell smoke. I know it's not real. I know I'm not there anymore, but I can smell my mother burning, and I can't make it stop. Ethan knocked on Mrs. Chen's door, phone pressed to his ear. You're not 7 years old. You're 30. You're in a hospital where you're safe. The fire is contained. Your mother isn't burning. Say that back to me. I'm 30. I'm safe. The fire is contained. Lena's voice shook. My mother isn't burning, but she did burn, Ethan. She burned, and I ran and left her. You survived. That's what she wanted. That's what any parent would want. Mrs. Chen opened her door in a bathrobe, took one look at Ethan's face, and nodded understanding. I'm getting in my truck now. 15 minutes. Keep talking to me. For those 15 minutes, Ethan drove through empty streets while Lena talked in fractured sentences about the fire, about arriving at the data center for a routine inspection and smelling smoke, about the instant regression to being 7 years old and helpless. He talked her through breathing exercises Dr. Chen had taught him for Mia's nightmares, kept his voice steady and calm even as he took corners too fast. He found her in a curtained-off section of the ER, sitting on an exam table in her business suit with an oxygen monitor on her finger and mascara streaked down her face. She looked up when he pushed through the curtain, and something in her expression crumbled. You came. Of course I came. Ethan moved to her side, and she collapsed against him, her whole body shaking. I've got you. You're safe. I thought I was past this. 3 weeks of therapy, medication, actually doing the work, and one small fire destroys all of it. Her words came out muffled against his chest. I'm never going to be normal, am I? I'm always going to be the broken woman who falls apart at the smell of smoke. You're not broken. You're traumatized. There's a difference. Ethan held her tightly. And you didn't fall apart. You recognized you needed help and you called me. That's progress. A nurse appeared, a kind-faced woman in her 40s. Mr. Cole? We've given her some medication to help with the anxiety. Her vitals are stabilizing. She can go home once the medication kicks in fully, but she shouldn't be alone tonight. She won't be, Ethan said without hesitation. After the nurse left, Lena pulled back enough to look at him. You can't stay with me. You have Mia to get back to. Mrs. Chen is with Mia. She'll stay until morning if needed. He brushed hair back from Lena's face. You're not doing this alone. I'm supposed to be getting better. That's what this whole month was for. But I'm still a mess. You are getting better. You called for help instead of trying to handle it alone. You're here instead of on a bridge. You're fighting instead of giving up. Ethan's voice was firm. That's what healing looks like. It's not linear, and it's not pretty, but it's real. Lena closed her eyes. The board is going to hear about this. Marcus's replacement hasn't been finalized yet. If they think I'm still unstable, then they'll deal with it. But right now, you focus on breathing and getting through the next hour. Tomorrow, we'll worry about the board. The medication slowly did its work, and Lena's breathing evened out, though she kept her hand locked in Ethan's like he was her only anchor. When the doctor cleared her to leave, Ethan drove her home to her penthouse apartment, a sleek, modern space that felt more like a hotel than a home. "I hate it here," Lena said as she unlocked the door. "It's beautiful and expensive and completely soulless. I bought it because it's what a CEO should have. I've never felt at home in it. Then maybe it's time to find somewhere that does feel like home." She looked at him strangely but didn't respond. Inside, Ethan helped her change into comfortable clothes and made tea neither of them really wanted. They sat on her designer couch watching the city lights through floor-to-ceiling windows, and Lena talked. She talked about the fire tonight, about how the smell of smoke had transported her instantly back to being 7, about watching her mother's studio burn while she stood frozen in the driveway, about the guilt that never really went away, just learned to hide in the corners of her mind waiting for triggers. "My therapist says I need to forgive that 7-year-old girl for running," Lena said quietly. "But I don't know how. She should have been braver, should have done something. She was 7. What could she have done? I don't know. Something. Anything." Lena's hands twisted together. The data center fire was nothing. Electrical short contained in minutes, no one hurt. But my brain doesn't care about logic. It just knows fire equals death equals my fault. It's not your fault, not then, not now. Logically, I know that. Emotionally, I'm still that terrified child who thinks she killed her mother by not being fast enough. She leaned her head on his shoulder. "How do you do it? How do you live with Mia when every day must remind you of what you lost with Sarah?" Ethan thought about the question carefully. "I had to accept that grief and love coexist, that I can miss Sarah desperately and still find joy in Mia's laugh, that honoring Sarah's memory doesn't mean staying frozen in the moment she died." He paused. "And I had to forgive myself for the things I couldn't control, for not knowing about her heart condition, for not being able to save her, for all the moments I was just a regular husband instead of her personal miracle worker." Did forgiveness make it hurt less? No, but it made the hurt more bearable, made room for other things alongside it. They sat in silence for a while, the city glittering below them, until Lena's breathing deepened into something close to sleep. Ethan shifted carefully, intending to find a blanket, but she grabbed his hand. "Don't go, please. I don't want to be alone with my nightmares tonight. I'm not going anywhere." He stayed on the couch with her, both of them tangled together in an awkward position that would leave them sore in the morning. But Lena slept, and her nightmares stayed away, and Ethan watched the sun rise over the city, thinking about forgiveness and healing and the long road between being broken and being whole. His phone buzzed at 6. "Mrs. Chen. Mia's fine. Made her breakfast and she's watching cartoons. You take care of what you need to take care of." He texted back his thanks and looked down at Lena, still sleeping against his chest. Her face was peaceful now, younger without the weight of corporate responsibility and trauma. He thought about her question from weeks ago. Would he have jumped in if he'd known who she really was? The answer was still yes. Would always be yes. Because she wasn't the scars or the trauma or the panic attacks. She was the woman who showed up to board meetings and told the truth, who brought too much Italian food because she didn't know how else to show she cared, who listened to a 6-year-old talk about princesses with genuine interest, who fought every day to be brave when bravery felt impossible. Lena stirred, her eyes opening slowly. "You stayed." "I told you I would." "People say that all the time. They rarely mean it." She sat up, wincing at her stiff neck. "What time is it?" "Just after 6. Mia's with Mrs. Chen. We have time." "Time for what?" "Whatever you need." Breakfast, talking, sitting in silence. "Your choice." Lena studied him for a long moment. "I need to tell you something, and I need you to listen all the way through before you respond. Can you do that?" "Of course." She stood, pacing to the window. "I'm in love with you. I know it's too soon and too complicated and probably too intense for where we are, but it's true. I love how you show up when I need you, how you parent Mia with such fierce gentleness, how you see my scars and don't look away, how you make me want to be braver than I think I can be." Her voice shook slightly. "And that terrifies me because loving people means they can leave. They can die or change their minds or realize I'm too much work and not enough reward. But I can't keep lying about it, so there it is. I love you." Ethan crossed to her, turning her to face him. "I love you too. Have for weeks now. Since you took off your scarf in that cafe and dared me to see you. Since you showed up terrified to meet Mia and did it anyway. Since you chose honesty over safety again and again." He cupped her face, feeling the textured scars under his palm. "And yes, it's too soon and too complicated. Yes, we're both still healing from our separate traumas. Yes, this could end badly, but I'd rather risk badly than miss out on something real." "You mean that?" Every word. Lena kissed him then, soft and certain, and Ethan kissed back with the kind of conviction that came from choosing hope over fear. When they pulled apart, both were crying a little. "What do we do now?" Lena asked. "Now we figure out how to build a life together, slowly, carefully, with full knowledge that we're both damaged goods trying to be whole. I'm supposed to go back to work next week. My month of leave is almost up. Are you ready?" "I don't know. My therapist thinks I should extend it. My CFO agrees, but I also feel like hiding forever, and that doesn't seem healthy either." Lena moved back to the couch, and Ethan followed. "The board meets Thursday to vote on Marcus's replacement. If the new member is hostile, they could use tonight's panic attack as ammunition against me. Then we make sure the new member isn't hostile. Who are the candidates?" They spent the next hour strategizing, Lena explaining the various investors interested in Marcus's shares while Ethan asked questions and offered perspective. By the time they were done, she had a plan for reaching out to her preferred candidate, a woman who'd built her own company after surviving breast cancer and understood that strength came in many forms. "You're good at this," Lena said. "The strategic thinking. Have you ever considered going back to project management?" "Not really. The flexible schedule with handyman work lets me be there for Mia. That's worth more than career advancement." "What if you could have both? Flexibility and using your actual skills?" Lena's eyes were thoughtful. "Ward Technologies is expanding our facilities management division. We need someone to oversee repairs, maintenance, vendor relationships, someone who understands both the technical side and the people side." Ethan stared at her. "Are you offering me a job?" "I'm offering you an interview. Big difference. I won't hire you just because we're together, but you're qualified. And we need someone good, and I think you'd be excellent at it." She paused. "Plus, the pay is significantly better than handyman work, and the schedule is flexible. You could actually save for Mia's college instead of just surviving month to month." "I need to think about it." "Of course. No pressure. But Ethan, you don't have to sacrifice your entire career for parenthood. Sarah wouldn't have wanted that." "How do you know what Sarah would have wanted?" "Because I've listened to every story you've told about her. She believed people should fight for what mattered. She would want you to thrive, not just survive." Ethan felt something shift in his chest. "You really pay attention." "To you?" "Always." He pulled her close, and they sat together as morning light filled the penthouse. They talked about logistics, about what it would mean to officially be together, about how to tell Mia that Lena wasn't just family friend anymore, but might become something more permanent. "I'm scared of hurting her," Lena admitted. "If we do this and it doesn't work out, she's the one who pays the price." "We're all scared. But Mia's tougher than you think. And we're not doing this recklessly. We're being honest and careful and making sure she knows she's loved no matter what." "Okay. So we tell her together. As a team." "As a team," Ethan agreed. They went to pick up Mia together, Lena following in her car. Mrs. Chen took one look at them and smiled knowingly but said nothing. Mia was thrilled to see Lena, chattering about her morning cartoons and asking if Lena wanted to see her new drawings. After Mrs. Chen left with promises to make them dinner later in the week, the three of them sat at Ethan's kitchen table. Mia sensed something important was happening and went quiet, her eyes moving between Ethan and Lena. "Sweetheart, Lena and I want to talk to you about something," Ethan started gently. "You know how Lena has been coming over for dinner a lot lately?" Mia nodded seriously. "Well, she's not just my friend anymore. She's someone very special to me. Someone I love." He glanced at Lena. We wanted you to know that because it might mean she's around more often. Is that okay with you? Mia looked at Lena. Do you love my daddy? I do, Lena said simply. Very much. Do you love me too? Yes. Is that okay? Mia thought about this carefully. Will you leave like Mommy did? The question hung in the air, heavy and heartbreaking. Lena reached across the table and took Mia's small hand. I can't promise I'll never leave because I don't know what the future holds, but I can promise I'll never choose to leave. I'll fight to stay, just like your mommy fought to stay. Lena's voice was steady despite the tears in her eyes. And I'll never try to replace your mommy. She's irreplaceable. But maybe I could be someone else who loves you, someone who's here for you? Like family friend, but more? Exactly like that. Mia nodded slowly. Okay, but you have to promise something. What's that? You have to keep being honest. Daddy says the worst thing is when grown-ups lie about important stuff. So if you're sad or scared, you have to tell us. Deal? Lena looked stunned by the wisdom from a 6-year-old. Deal, I promise to always be honest with you. Then it's okay. You can love us. Mia paused. Can we have pancakes now? Just like that, the moment passed, and Mia was bouncing out of her chair asking for breakfast. Ethan and Lena looked at each other, both slightly amazed at how easily children could accept what adults found terrifying. She's incredible, Lena whispered. She learned from the best, Ethan said, thinking of Sarah. The next few days passed in a blur of normalcy that felt revolutionary. Lena came for dinner every night, slowly becoming part of their routine. She helped Mia with homework, learned to braid hair after watching 3 YouTube videos, and didn't panic when Mia had a nightmare about Sarah and needed both of them to sit with her until she fell back asleep. Thursday arrived with the board meeting. Lena dressed in her armor, a tailored suit and silk scarf, her makeup perfect and her expression controlled. But before she left Ethan's apartment, she took off the scarf. I'm not hiding anymore, she said. If they can't handle my scars, they don't deserve my leadership. The board meeting lasted 3 hours. Ethan got updates via text. Her preferred candidate was there. Questions were tough, but fair. Marcus's replacement was being decided by vote. Then silence for 45 minutes that felt like hours. Finally, we won. Dr. Sarah Mitchell is the new board member. She stood up during discussions and said she'd rather invest in a CEO who admits vulnerability than one who fakes perfection. The vote was 9-3 in favor. Ethan, I'm so proud of you. Lena, I wore my scars visible the entire meeting. No one said a word, but everyone saw. That felt important. Ethan, it was important. You showed them who you really are. Lena, and they chose me anyway. That feels like a miracle. That evening, Lena came over with champagne and Chinese food, and they celebrated with Mia, who didn't fully understand what they were celebrating but was excited anyway. After Mia went to bed, Ethan and Lena sat on the couch, finally able to breathe. I've been thinking about your job offer, Ethan said. I want to interview for it. See if it's a good fit. Really? Really? You were right. Sarah would want me to thrive, and I think I could be good at facilities management. You'd be excellent at it, but we do it properly. You interview with David, my CFO. He makes the hiring decision, not me. No nepotism. Deal. Lena curled against him. I'm supposed to officially return to work Monday. Full schedule, full responsibilities. I'm terrified. You'll be amazing, and you'll have support this time. Your therapist, your new board member, me. You're not doing this alone. No, I'm not alone anymore. She looked up at him. That's new and strange and wonderful. Get used to it. I'm not going anywhere. 3 months later, on a cold January morning, Ethan stood by the Alder River with Mia bundled in her purple coat beside him. The water flowed dark and swift, the same river that had almost claimed Lena but had instead brought her into their lives. Is it time yet? Mia asked, jumping from foot to foot against the cold. Almost. She'll be here soon. Lena appeared on the path, walking slowly, wearing jeans and a simple sweater with no scarf. Her burn scars were visible, and she no longer tried to hide them. In her hand, she carried a single white rose. Hi, she said, slightly breathless from the walk. Hi, Ethan responded. They stood together at the railing, the three of them, looking at the water. This was the spot where it had all begun, where Ethan had made the choice to jump, where Lena had hit the current and thought she was done fighting. "My therapist suggested I come back here," Lena said quietly. "Face the place that almost became my ending and claim it as my beginning instead." "What do you want to say to it?" Ethan asked. Lena was quiet for a moment, then she spoke to the river, her voice steady. "You didn't win. You thought you could take me, but Ethan didn't let you. And I'm grateful for that. Grateful for the second chance. Grateful for the life I'm building instead of the ending I almost chose." She tossed the white rose into the current, watching it drift downstream. "Thank you for bringing me to them, for showing me there was something worth staying for." Mia slipped her hand into Lena's. "I'm glad you stayed too. I like having you with us." "I like being with you. Both of you." Lena looked at Ethan. "You saved my life that night, but you kept saving it every day after, showing up, believing in me, making space for me to be broken and whole at the same time." "You saved mine too," Ethan said. "You reminded me that life doesn't end with grief, that it's okay to love again, to hope again, to build something new while honoring what came before." They stood there as the winter wind picked up, watching the white rose disappear into the distance. The river flowed on, indifferent to their story, but somehow it felt right to be here, to acknowledge the place where everything changed. "Can we go get hot chocolate now?" Mia asked. "I'm cold." "Yes, sweetheart. Hot chocolate sounds perfect." Ethan took her other hand, and the three of them walked back up the path together. That evening, after Mia was in bed, Ethan found Lena standing in his living room looking at the photos on the wall. Sarah smiled out from frames, frozen in happy moments. "I used to think I needed to compete with her memory," Lena said quietly. "But I understand now. She's part of your story, and I'm part of it too. Different chapters, but the same book. She would have liked you once she got past your intensity and convinced you to take a vacation." "I'm working on the vacation thing. My therapist is very insistent." Lena turned to face him. "I have something to ask you, and I need you to really think about it before answering." "Okay." "Move in with me. Not to my penthouse. I'm selling that soulless place. I want to buy a house, somewhere with a yard for Mia and a real kitchen and enough space for all of us. Somewhere that feels like home." Her voice was nervous but determined. "I know it's fast. I know we're still figuring this out, but I don't want to keep living in separate spaces, pretending we're not already a family." Ethan felt his breath catch. "Lena, I'm not asking you to marry me. Not yet. But I'm asking you to build a life with me, properly. All in. No more testing the waters." She took his hands. "What do you think?" Ethan thought about Mia's drawing that still sat on her nightstand. Thought about Lena braiding his daughter's hair and helping with homework. Thought about Sarah's last words about staying big enough for both of them. Thought about the river and the choice to jump and everything that had followed. "I think yes. I think let's find a house with a yard and a real kitchen and space for all of us. I think let's build something together." Lena's smile was radiant, unguarded, real. "Yeah? Yeah. All in. No more testing the waters." She kissed him then, deep and certain, and Ethan kissed back with the kind of joy he'd thought he'd lost forever. When they pulled apart, both were crying a little. "We should tell Mia tomorrow," Lena said. "Let her help pick the house. Make sure she feels part of this decision. She'll insist on a purple room. Obviously. And I'll insist on an office with natural light. And you'll insist on a workshop for all your tools. Look at us, already compromising like a real family." "We are a real family," Lena said firmly. "Unconventional and built from pieces of broken things, but real." That night, they sat on Ethan's couch making plans and dreaming about futures that felt possible instead of terrifying. They talked about the house they'd find, about Ethan's new job at Ward Technologies that he'd started the previous month, about Lena's continued therapy and her plans to implement mental health resources throughout the company. "I'm testifying next month," Lena said, "at a city council hearing about mental health funding. They want me to share my story, talk about what support systems meant for my recovery." "That's huge. Are you ready?" "No, but I'm doing it anyway. Because someone needs to say that CEOs and leaders and successful people can struggle too. That asking for help isn't weakness. She leaned against him. And I'm going to tell them about you. About the man who jumped into a river for a stranger and then stayed when staying was harder than leaving. I'm not a hero. You are to me. You showed me that scars don't disqualify you from love. That being broken doesn't mean being unworthy. That second chances are real if you're brave enough to take them. Lena's voice was thick with emotion. You gave me my life back, Ethan. Let me honor that. Okay, honor it. Tell the whole city if you want. As long as you remember one thing. What's that? You saved yourself. I just held the door open. You chose to walk through it. 6 months later, they moved into a 3-bedroom house with a yard and a real kitchen and space for all of them. Mia got her purple room. Lena got her office with natural light. Ethan got his workshop, and Sarah's photos found new walls, honored and present, but no longer the only story being told. On moving day, as boxes piled up and chaos reigned, Mia found Ethan and Lena in the kitchen unpacking dishes. Is this home now? She asked. Ethan and Lena looked at each other, then at Mia. Yes, sweetheart, Ethan said. This is home. Good, because I love it here. I love our family. Mia paused, thoughtful. Lena, can I ask you something? Anything. Will you marry my daddy? I know you said you weren't ready before, but I think you're ready now, and I want you to stay forever. Lena's eyes went wide, then filled with tears. She looked at Ethan, who was equally stunned, and they both started laughing. Well, Lena managed, that's one way to propose. Is that a yes? Mia asked hopefully. Give us a little time, sweetheart, Ethan said gently. But I think eventually, yeah, it's a yes. Mia beamed and ran off to explore her new room, leaving Ethan and Lena alone in the kitchen, surrounded by half-unpacked boxes and the promise of tomorrow. Did our daughter just propose for you? Lena asked. I think she did, and she called you part of our family without hesitation. I noticed that too. Lena moved into his arms. For the record, when you actually ask me properly, the answer will be yes. I'm not ready today, but I will be. Because you and Mia are my family now. My home. My second chance at everything I thought I'd lost. And you're ours. Our second chance at joy after grief. A reminder that broken things can heal if you give them time and patience and love. They stood there in their new kitchen, in their new home, with their daughter playing upstairs and boxes waiting to be unpacked. Outside the window, the January sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. The Alder River flowed somewhere in the distance, dark and cold and carrying its secrets. But here, in this house built from courage and honesty, and the choice to stay when leaving felt easier, the river was just water. Just a place where endings became beginnings, where drowning became survival, where fear became love. Ethan kissed Lena's forehead, her scarred neck, her lips, tasting salt from happy tears. She kissed him back with certainty and hope, and the kind of joy that came from being truly seen and choosing to stay visible anyway. They were damaged goods who'd found each other in the dark. They were grieving hearts learning to beat in new rhythms. They were a father and a daughter, and a woman with burn scars who'd all learned that family wasn't about perfection, it was about presence. And they were home. Finally, blessedly, completely home.